All right. Well, for those of you who have a cocktail, cheers to us. It is the first broker cocktail hour. So welcome. I am Rhonda Reap-Curiel. For those who don't know me, I am a managing broker with Coldwell Banker Reap in Alexandria. And I serve as the broker engagement council person for the state of Louisiana. So I get to represent all of you and bring back wonderful things from NAR for your use in your daily operations of your brokerage. I'm going to hit a couple of things real quick. Angela is going to put some links in the chat. If you have a question, we're going to use the raise hand function or chat. You can type your questions there, and she and Donna are going to watch the chat box for us. The first is the initial goal when this council was the broker involvement program, dealt with getting you as brokers to sign up to allow NAR to send to your agents information on call to actions. And when it's sent to them, it looks as if you are requesting them to act. And we see that when it comes from the broker, agents are more apt to respond. So there will be a link in chat. We will follow up this summit with all of the links that we discussed today. The second thing I want to mention to y'all is C2EX.Realtor. It rolled out in 2019. If you have a new agent, the best way to get them immersed in everything that it is to be a realtor is the C2EX program. That's C2EX.Realtor. You will find everything, fair housing, advocacy, everything that we do as realtors as part of this program. It also counts as your code of ethics certification. So if you don't want to take another class, you can sit at home in the evenings and go through C2EX and check that box off. The next thing is fairhaven.realtor. It is a fair housing simulator that was created. So it really teaches you about the fair housing laws in a game-like format. We know that people learn better when they're having fun. So that was the point of Fairhaven. We've had several people go through it. I know our MLS and board made a commitment to go through it. I will confess, I still have to do my part on that. And this just rolled out. If you read Inman today, you saw that NAR has created a site to help us share our value as a realtor, what it means to be a realtor versus a real estate professional. And so you can visit competition.realtor and get ideas on how to promote yourself as a realtor versus a real estate agent. And I just mentioned Inman as a broker. If you do not have a subscription to Inman, that is brought to you by Louisiana Realtors as a member benefit. And you can email Angela Walters at angela@larealtors.org, and she will get you connected with that free subscription. And with that, we're going to get started with our first speaker. That's going to be Helen Devlin. She is NAR's Vice President of Strategy, where she leads NAR's Congressional Relations team. She joined NAR in 2004 and has been working in DC since 1988. She was our key contact for Louisiana Realtors. So she is a great friend to Louisiana Realtors. She knows our congressional delegation well. She's still a great contact for us. And she is here today to update us on some key issues coming out of DC. So Helen, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks very much. It's great to see some of the folks that I've worked with over the years. And I should have been more prepared and realized it was a real cocktail hour. So this is the closest thing I could grab. I'll have to go with the White Claw for right now, I guess. But next time I'll be more prepared with a real cocktail. But thanks again for inviting us. It was great to be in San Diego last week. For those of you who were there, it was really nice for everyone to get together, and looking forward to a lot more in-person events moving forward. Fingers crossed that we can do that. Okay, I'm going to go through, it's been an interesting year, clearly, in Congress. But there's about three main issues that they have been, or three main products that they have been working on, moving through, and it's about all that might get done before the end of this year. But first and foremost was the infrastructure package. The bipartisan infrastructure bill passed Congress about a week or two ago. We weighed in quite a bit on various infrastructure projects and programs, but particularly something that our realtors across the board were interested in is broadband funding. So we worked with Congress and with your delegation, who are really involved with all of these issues because of their roles on the Transportation Committee, Congressman Garrett and others. They're right in the thick of the debates here. But $65 billion was added for broadband. So we're going to be working with agencies and localities as that money tries to get out the door over the next year or two. Of course, the big thing you're hearing about in the news and everything that's going on right now is the president's proposal called the Build Back Better plan. It's 3 Bs. There's been a lot of creative uses of what those 3 Bs mean over the last month. Build back broke, build back everything. But Build Back Better is what the true moniker is. This was proposed back in January, and it's had lots of iterations. We've been trying to figuring out what things we can get in that make sense to be in there, but more importantly, what to take out of there and not have in there. So just real quickly, some of the things that are in this package that we do like and that we've supported is there's going to be a first generation down payment assistance program that'll get rolled out. We'll be part of helping that get written into law and implemented. There's lots of affordable housing funding. There is fair housing enforcement and education funding. And Rhonda, you mentioned Fairhaven. I mean, this education on fair housing is really the direction that we want to continue as we move forward. We did develop the Fair Haven program. It's been an award-winning program now, and I've taken it, and it's a really interesting way for people to think about different scenarios you might be in. So thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate it. As I said, what's equally important is what is not in this bill, that we're pretty happy about that. And what those things that are not in this bill have to do with how they were initially planning to pay for the bill. 1031 like-kind exchanges, any changes to that program are not in this bill. We started out the year with a big proposal that was out there. We're going to pay for this by limiting like-kind exchanges based on the dollar amount that is, of savings and that kind of stuff. We launched a big campaign. Thanks for all of your help. We had FPC's call. We put out a portal and collected over 200 stories that we could use on the Hill with members of Congress across the country to show how like-kind exchanges are really economic benefit and the value they show to your communities by keeping that capital rolling. And it's funny, all of these different tax issues, that's usually the first thing that we get asked is, okay, usually on these tax issues, it becomes class warfare. Rich people are paying, don't pay their fair share. And they always come to us and say, how can we make these tax benefits not be about rich people? How can we make sure that, like-kind exchanges can help communities, that kind of stuff. So we've had some great data that we were able to give to Congress to help them understand that. So nothing on 1031s as part of this package. Nothing on changing stepped up basis for capital gains. We started out the year where they were dabbling in that world, again, trying to cut that off at certain income levels or at certain gain levels. So stepped out basis changes are not part of the discussion that's going on right now. There is a slight increase in the capital gains rate, but the way we look at it is it's definitely not as big as what proposed. Didn't go up to 35%, which is very good. And it is still lower than what federal law was before the last big tax reform package went through. So it's a little tick up, but it's a lot better than it could have been. So we're kind of okay with that. It looks like I'm getting texts as we're sitting here that Congress is really going to try to start passing this bill tonight. They might try to do it tonight over the weekend. Holidays are always a great deadline that Congress works up against. And quite frankly, this year, they've blown through every deadline. They had a deadline of trying to get this done July, then get it done before the August break. And so we'll see, but they seem to have a little momentum going tonight and with the hope of getting this thing passed before the weekend. So we'll see. Again, I've given up betting on these deadlines of Congress because they're always able to go through them and come up with creative ways to move them. So, but anyway, you'll be seeing about that in the news over the next couple of days. The last thing that Congress has to focus on before the end of the year is completing the budget by December 3rd, or extending the budget and extending any other programs that are about to expire. What matters for us in this area is our favorite subject, the flood insurance program. The flood insurance program runs until December 3rd. We're getting a lot of assurances that it's going to be extended as is. There is no effort in Congress to try to do some big reform package before the end of the year. So we feel pretty good right now, but stay tuned to December 1st and 2nd. You might hear us asking you to help us if something falls off the rails. So we think a straight extension is going to happen. But at the same time, you all are probably very familiar with the FEMA's new proposed Rate 2.0 program for flood insurance. They've started to roll that out a little bit at a time. The rest of the information will come out in April. We have the FEMA administrator in San Diego, gave a couple of presentations. He also met with states individually. You all had an amazing group of realtors who met directly with the director and then laid it on the line about what you all are seeing in your areas. And so the director they realize this is a whole new direction. First time they're kind of putting something out there. It may not be perfect. What we want to try to help do is get that information to FEMA what you all are seeing. What are the quotes that you're hearing that are really out of whack? And that's really kind of the role we want to play, is let us be that information conduit there, because there's going to be blips. There's going to have to probably be alterations as we go forward. So thank you all I know we've collected some stories from New Orleans, thanks to Kelly and others that have helped do that, but we're going to keep looking for more. Any questions you've got on it, please let me know, or Jack Greason. A lot of you folks know Jack Greason does the political stuff with Louisiana. We also hope to have a video and a few other things coming out with more information about how the program works. But we know it's not going to be perfect, and it's continuing to be a little bit of a work in progress. You've got an amazing delegation that's just all over this. They have at every chance tried to keep FEMA on their toes, make sure FEMA is being clear and open with them. We met with Mr. Scalise not too long ago. I know he had a roundtable locally, but we met with him in Washington, and he said that's basically where they are right now. Is they just want to make sure that that FEMA is responsive. FEMA's not been the most responsive. I'm just going to say it to your delegation, because they know the answers aren't always going to be favorable. So we want to help with that. Your delegation is on top of it, and it's the best we can do right now. Just keep walking through as you see things that don't look right. Raise your flags, and we'll try to get the information to FEMA for you. On that happy note, so we'll see how that goes forward. One other thing I wanted to mention real quick. I think there was a question ahead of time from Simon, I believe, and it was about the lawsuits, the DOJ lawsuit issue. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to talk much about the lawsuit, and our wonderful legal department keeps us all in the dark on purpose. So we don't. So I apologize if it sounds like I've got talking points, but I do. Basically, we are using all of the resources to fight this, and you all saw what happened. We had an agreement, and then the DOJ pulled out. So we are aggressively trying to work on that. There were some MLS changes that happened at the board of directors, which we think will help. But another thing that, in addition to trying to win this in the courts, what my talking points say is we also need to win in the court of public opinion about competition in real estate, because that's really what these are all about, is this lack of feeling that the real estate market is competitive and that our industry is competitive. So we are working very hard to change that narrative. And we have a new website that's up. That's www.competition.realtor. We can try to put that in the chat. It does have some FAQs about the lawsuit that give you more information that, again, I'm not allowed to talk about it myself, but and then a lot more information about this issue on competition and how we need to change that public narrative overall. So you're going to keep seeing that message coming out of us for the next, hopefully not more than a year, but we'll see how long it takes. So that is just my very, very nutshell of where things are, what's going on. I'm happy to take any questions if there are. If there's any in the chat, I didn't quite.
I'm not seeing any. Angela, did you pick up any?
No.
No, wonderful. Okay, we'll get that information about competition.realtor out to you And again, we'll keep working with everybody. I think, Connie, did you have a question? Oh, I think you're on mute there.
You gave us what you thought were the positive parts of the bill. You didn't share with us any of the negatives. So just wondering if there's some other things that we probably should be aware of.
You know, in our world, there really isn't much that's negative, you know, other than this thing, the larger issues that are part of this debate, which is the price tag. You know, massive price tags of 3.8 trillion and the like, which it's definitely down. Those clearly are going to impact the economy in a lot of different ways.
What about the inheritance tax? Because I know that was one of the big issues.
Yes, the capital gains,
No.
or the inheritance tax.
Right.
I don't believe that there is anything in there on that right now. I will double check, but the last briefing that I received, I think we are good there.
Okay.
So I think we are good there. There was something at one point about that 3.8% tax that that I can get some more information to you all on. That's something that they kind of tweaked a little bit, but I think we can live with it. I'll get you a better list of everything, but
Thank you.
overall, and so, you know, we have not taken a position either way on the bill itself. So I want to make that clear. We're not out there advocating for or against it. This thing it's just, you know, we dodged some bullets, and so we're kind of keeping our head down because we dodged some things that could have been rough for us. It's also such an incredibly partisan debate that it's, you know, that doesn't really, we're trying to stay out of it as much as we can. Just trying to be very honest and direct with you there on that. So, any other questions? No? All right, well, thanks everybody and cheers. Appreciate it. Have fun.
Thanks, Helen. So Jeremy Alford is going to be up next. If you're a major donor, major investor through LARPAC, you're quite familiar with his weekly LA politics dropping in your inbox, because that is a benefit of being a major investor. But he's an independent journalist and co-author of numerous books. We all know politics in Louisiana sometimes feels like the best contact sport that we can watch from the sidelines and laugh about or be embarrassed about at times. He is featured in the New York Times on a regular basis. He's also been an on-camera analyst for Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and C-SPAN. And he is the source for anything inside the rails and outside the rails on Louisiana politics. So welcome, Jeremy.
Thanks, Rhonda. You know, as we get to the end of the year, I always think about my mentor and late business partner, John McGinnis. He used to always have the same summation about the Louisiana legislature in December. And that summation was that they could have done less, but they ran out of time. As clever as that is, I'm not sure I could say that this year or even next year. We had a very busy year, and we're looking to have another busy year next year. But with families and businesses struggling to rebuild across the coast, and a very public conversation about insurance starting to intensify, the stage is set for some substantial debates over housing related issues at the Capitol. It's a little loosey-goosey right now in terms of what to expect, but lawmakers are starting to stake out positions. They're starting to pick pet projects and pet issues. I interviewed several lawmakers this week, and I heard about best practices, banking issues, mortgage companies, temporary housing, and a host of other issues. In terms of what actually gets filed, we'll have to wait and see. But kind of towards the top of everyone's list is the ability of mortgage companies to take over flood and storm claims and the money that comes from that. You know, in particular, I don't think anyone is looking to target this issue broadly, as long as the consumer is current with their loan and these payments aren't being delayed in a really bad fashion. But that's one of the top complaints that lawmakers are getting from the constituents. What's really interesting to me, and that I haven't reported, is that lawmakers are starting to hear from the constituents that the mortgage companies are starting to take a fee for the management of that claim money. There's some serious concerns and some serious questions about that. In terms of temporary housing, I spoke with Z Zarang. He's the appropriations chairman down in Terrebonne Parish, and they're just having a hell of a problem down there trying to find enough trailers. FEMA was kind of late to the game. At first, I don't think FEMA wanted to reinstate the trailer program that Louisiana has seen before. Z Zarang told me that of course this is a federal function, but he does think that there are some things that Louisiana can do, maybe legislatively, maybe administratively, to better respond to this type of storm. Z Zarang told me he is also particularly concerned about deductibles for homeowner insurance. He's dealing with some problems down in Terrebonne where it's a percentage of the value of the home rather than the damage. And that's something that he wants to see debated at the Capitol. Now, of course, Terrebonne Parish and the surrounding region was impacted by Hurricane Ida this year. Last year, we saw landfall for Laura and Delta over in Southwest Louisiana. I spoke with Mark Abraham. He's a state senator over there. I would certainly keep an eye on him in terms of leadership for next term. But he is, there's some interesting things going on with the coalition that's starting to develop. I also spoke with Brett Guyman, and he brought a bill last year that he described as a, quote, hard-hitting, get your attention, double the penalties bill that was meant to only bring insurance to the table to start a negotiation. He told me that he expects similar bills to be filed like that next year. And he's also expecting there to be a much larger coalition for that come to the table bill than what we saw last year. Mark Abraham echoed that. He said he's been in conversations with Z Zarang to do just that. There are a lot of folks who are trying to apply a lessons learned strategy to in terms of what to do about housing issues. So there's a lot of looking back to what we did after Katrina and Rita. And you may recall that one of the things that happened in the wake of those two storms was a comprehensive review of the building codes in the state. I asked every legislator I interviewed today whether they have heard any rumblings about another review of the building codes. Mark Abraham, for example, told me that he hadn't, and that he feels like that the structures that were built to the new code survived last year's storm season in Southwest Louisiana. Actually, the only legislator who told me that they thought it would be good to kind of dip back into the building code is Jeremy Stein. He's the senator-elect out of Lake Charles and part of the family that owns Stein Lumber. Jeremy Stein also has two really big ideas that at least one came to my mind last year, which is, you may remember after Katrina and Rita, Governor Blanco formed the Louisiana Recovery Authority to serve as a board to oversee recovery from Katrina and Rita. That wasn't created last year following the hurricanes. It wasn't discussed this year. I kept wondering if it would be, but Jeremy Stein is looking at potential legislation to create something like that. He is also fond of the idea that we saw from Governor Abbott over in Texas following their most recent hurricane. They created a hurricane czar. It's always interesting to hear conservative members of the legislature talk about growing government and creating new positions. But, if the weather trends stay like they are and we encounter these kind of challenges on an annual or every other year basis, the state's going to have to pivot and figure out how to respond to this, whether it's a kind of an updating of the CPRA or something else. So it sounds like we're going to have a very robust conversation. I imagine there are probably a number of housing related issues that I haven't heard about yet. But I did, try to cover the waterfront, at least along the coast, pun intended. And that's at least what I yielded. Something else to look forward toward in the next session is you may have noticed that the first constitutional amendment on the ballot failed. That was the amendment to create a structure for a centralized sales tax collection system to be created in the future by the legislature. It failed by 15,000 votes. I think a lot of folks might want to credit Mayor LaToya Cantrell in New Orleans, as she was the official who went out on a limb to oppose this. But that amendment failed in very diverse areas across the state. It even failed in Ascension Parish, which is the home parish of the Speaker of the House. And he was one of the most vocal proponents of the proposal. But the proponents of this proposal kind of hit the ground running this week. They're going to kind of come back to bat, and they're going to look at maybe statutory changes, regulatory, administrative, to try to streamline the system. And at least thematically, that's going to fit really well into next year's session, because from vaccines to I wrote this down, I'm sorry. From vaccines to critical race theory, to transgender athletes and influx of new federal dollars, we're going to be debating issues that were already debated in this year's regular session. So a lot of these things that are going to come up in the session should sound familiar, because we've been through them before. Before I'll leave you, I'll talk a little bit about the kind of the top race that's starting to develop, and that's the governor's race. You may be thinking to yourself, it's a little too early to start talking about the governor's race, but I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. If you go back to the last time we had an open race for governor, and we were kind of in this same time span, that race was in 2015. So in 2013, at this point, the week before Thanksgiving, John Bell Edwards had already announced for governor, and he had just had a big fundraiser at Mittendorf's that was well attended. Jay Darden this week, 1 year, at the same time during this cycle, Jay Darden released his campaign website. David Vitter was preparing to announce on YouTube right after Christmas for the governor's race. So we're kind of right on target. We know already that the biggest moves are being made by Attorney General Jeff Landry. If you need to read between the tea leaves on Jeff Landry, one of his top attorneys in his office has announced that she will run for Attorney General. That's Liz Murrill, if Jeff Landry runs for governor. I think that's a pretty clear sign that he's interested in the seat. Billy Nungesser is traveling the state, attending as many events as he can. He's starting to put together a team. I think we're going to see an announcement from him pretty soon. Freshman Representative Richard Nelson from Southeast Louisiana said that he's interested in campaigning for governor. We've heard Democrat Gary Smith. I'm not sure how solid that is. I know he said he's looking at it. But on the Democratic side, it's really been crickets. It's been kind of quiet. I'm not sure where the big Democratic name is going to come from. But I will tell you this: that heading into Thanksgiving and the Christmas holidays, the feel for this race is not set. It is far from set. I think we may see one, maybe even two surprise candidates jump in on the Republican side. And it creates kind of a cascade down the ballot. Then we would have an open lieutenant governor's race. Stuart Bishop, the chairman of the Ways and Means, is looking at that, as well as some others. The attorney general's race has shaped up very quickly, especially with the announcement from Liz Murrill. In addition to her, you have a district attorney from North Louisiana, John Belton. He's a conservative-leaning district attorney. He's an independent. He's already been endorsed by District Attorney Jason Williams in Orleans. He's had fundraisers with sheriffs around the state. At this point, he's the real sleeper candidate in that race. I'm really interested to see what he's going to do, and I'm interested to see if he actually qualifies as a no-party candidate. And of course, John Stefanski, the chairman of House and Government, is looking at that race as well. I think if there's a kind of a sleeper race on the statewide ballot, I think it's agriculture commissioner, and I think that race could come down to boil down to marijuana and how the candidates have approached that issue. Mike Strain, as recently as today, has been receiving heavy criticism for kind of dragging his feet on the medical marijuana program. Meanwhile, you have Speaker Clay Shakespeare, who is interested in running, who was kind of the godfather of our modern Louisiana hemp program. And if you go look on the speaker's social media, you'll see him sharing a lot of hemp-related products like Delta 8 and other things. And I just can't help but see the hand of marijuana playing in this race. And look, this is our new reality. If you think that sounds funny, it's really not. They're looking at a tripling of sales within the next 12 months with the introduction of actual flower marijuana in January. So it's big industry, big players, and I think they could have a big impact on the agricultural race. If anybody has any questions about any of the elections coming up or about session, I'll be happy to take it. But thank you for the invitation.
Rhonda?
Yes, Mr. Bill?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, do you think some strong semblance of amendment number 1 will reappear soon, since a little less than 15% is considered a narrow margin?
Yeah, I think we're going to see action on that immediately. In fact, Bill, we saw action on it Monday when a lawsuit was filed by the Pelican Institute, the Goldwater Institute, and some national taxpayers union filed suit claiming that Louisiana's sales tax collection system makes it difficult for businesses and it violates a 2018 U.S. Supreme Court decision. So the legal play in the judicial branch has already started. What's going to happen next in terms of statutory, constitutional law, regulatory, administrative, we'll see, but I would bet money that we're going to see something on that front pretty soon, if not by the regular session. So it is by no means is it a dead issue. It's very much alive.
Anybody else got anything for Jeremy? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
As we all know, risk management and legal affairs is a huge part of what we have to deal with in our day-to-day operation. For those of you who don't know, LR selected new legal counsel this year. We are moving away from Baker Donaldson, and Brazil, Saxey, and Wilson are our new attorneys of record. And I'm not sure if Troy is here, but I believe we have Eric and Kristen with us. They are going to discuss the legal hotline and how it can benefit you, and answer all of your questions on things that the Real Estate Commission might not answer. They will not get into specific transactions for you, but if you have questions in general, you can certainly send them through the hotline, and they're very responsive. Eric is a partner with BSW. His primary area of practice is real estate banking, finance, and corporate governance. Troy is also a partner, and his practice focus and experiences in business transaction and financial services. Kristen Oglesby is an associate with the firm, and her primary areas of practice include corporate finance, tax, nonprofits, and association matters. So Troy, Kristen, Eric, I'm turning it over to you guys.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. This is Eric, by the way. And thanks you guys for having us. And I think that the idea is for us to try to give you a general idea of what the hotline can do for you. And I think the answer to that is we can answer questions that you might have, obviously legal issues that relate to a broad variety of things. Number one being, the uniform purchase agreement and interpretation of that purchase agreement and how it applies. And if you have questions about, how you should be completing some of the blanks on it, what addendums might need to be used in certain instances, and how those addendums impact the agreement in different contexts. I think that is certainly something we can help with. So obviously, we're familiar with that agreement and the broad sort of application of that. As somebody discussed earlier, we can't give specifics to each and every transaction and how your specific facts might apply with respect to the agreement. But in general, if you can tell us, here are the facts and we can apply those facts, we can do that. But there are always factual issues that will dictate how the agreement is applied. And sometimes we aren't able to really sort of give you a definitive answer. But when it comes to general terms of the agreement, we can help you with that. And when it comes to, sort of indicating what addenda need to be done or not done, and then also what blanks need to be filled out and how they might best be filled out in order to sort of accommodate your situation. We can help with that. The other things we deal with are, sort of realtors association issues, which is ethical issues, and the rules, so to speak, of being a realtor and how that applies and dealing with other realtors, your ethical obligations in that regard, and we can help guide you through that process as well. We can reach out to the National Association and or just sort of pull down the guidance that they've issued in the past on certain issues, and a lot of the ground that you guys might be trying to cover has probably already been covered, and we might have already run across it, or the association in prior years may have already answered that question for folks. So if you reach out to us, we might be able to get you a real quick answer based on some previous research. The other things that we deal with are generally applicable Louisiana laws with respect to real estate transactions, and obviously that can vary from deal to deal. Recently, obviously, it's issues related to the hurricane and how that affects the enforcement of contracts. We did a brief little webinar on sort of post-hurricane issues, but those come up seemingly now every year, because we seem to have a storm every year that plays into the ability to enforce a contract that was entered into before the hurricane, and the state of the property after the hurricane comes through, and the ability of the seller to get out or the buyer to get out of the contract. And so we can sort of help walk you through that process. Also, if there are issues related to leasing, real estate, rental, that kind of thing, we can talk about eviction processes and collecting of rent, return of deposits, those kind of issues that come up for those that rent or manage rental properties. So that's a high level summary of what the hotline really intended for. But I would say there's nothing off limits. If you have a question that you think we can help with, please submit it. And we may not be able to answer it as specifically as you might like, because we can't give you a hard answer unless we know every fact. And it's hard for us to know every fact just based on a hotline question. But we will do our best to give you an answer that leads you in a direction where you feel like you can move forward without too much guesswork. And we're trying to remove the ambiguity for you, so that when you do go forward, you feel comfortable that what you're doing is legal and compliant with the rules of LR. So I'm happy to answer any questions or specifics about that, or whatever else people might want to know.
All right, I'm seeing some flow in the chat, and we've posted the link to the hotline there. Know that it is for brokers only. So if your agent has a question, you as the broker has to submit it through. And basically it's larealtors.org/legal-hotline. But there is a questionnaire that you fill out and submit it, and that answer will come back to you. But it's a broker benefit. It's open to the brokers. If your agents have something they feel needs to be addressed, you're the one who has to send it. Kim, is there anything else you want to add on the hotline?
Rhonda, I'm going to post a link to the legal hotline year in review. I think a lot of brokers will find it helpful.
No, I've helped several brokers send things through, and the information that came back to them was truly helpful. Troy and Eric kind of cut their teeth on the legal hotline back when they were getting started as attorneys, so they are very well versed. And we feel like this transition to the new legal team is going to be very smooth, and so far it has gone really smoothly. So our last item to discuss today is the new contract. And we have my favorite real estate commissioner, Rick Roberts, here to talk to us about that. He's my favorite for several reasons. One, because he always takes my call, even after 5 on a Friday. But he is currently an associate broker at Coldwell Banker Tech in Mandeville. He has been a licensed broker for 31 years. Geez, dude, I didn't realize. He has served LR leadership and realtor leadership in numerous levels at positions at the state and local level. He was the Realtor of the Year in 2017. He is on the Real Estate Commission and was chairman last year during the year when nobody did anything. Dude, how'd you get off so easy? But he is here today to walk you through the contract. And I know that LR actually sent out an email with the video link. Curtis has already mentioned that. It was sent to you on November 12th. So you can go back in your email and find that and replay it. And then Rick is also going to talk about some other additional opportunities to learn about the contract. So Rick.
Thanks, Rhonda. Excuse me, checks in the mail. Thank you so much. Listen, I know we're pushing up against 5 o'clock. I don't want to go too long here because it's almost past Tommy Eastman's bedtime. So I'll try to be brief. And listen, I don't think we have to go in great detail with this group about the contract, but I would like to offer a few things that is relevant, especially to the managers out here for your agents. One is we will have the final version of both the property disclosure document and the contract on the commission website and out for distribution, along with the red line strike versions of both. Probably Tuesday of next week, no later than Wednesday of next week. We just got those finalized. I got to thank Kim Calloway, who's been working unbelievably hard. Even in San Diego, poolside, she was working, helping us with those red line strike versions, and I appreciate her help with that. But those will be out next week, and that's really the salient thing that you guys are going to have when you're going over this with your agents. The other thing to know too is, yes, it kind of looks formidable at first, but a lot of it is formatting changes. It's really not any great sea change, with the exception of, and Rhonda said it earlier, with the due diligence and inspection period, or the DDI now that we're referring to. But really, it's not that big of a change. It's a clarification of what can and can't be done. And I think most of us were kind of following it as far as a response and a response time during that period. But the rest of it, again, was formatting and things that made sense. And of course, this is a cooperative agreement effort with Louisiana Realtors and the commission. And we took in all the recommendations, and that's why you see those things that were added into the included items, and just things that seem to work better in the field for our licensees who are out there writing these contracts and receiving these contracts. The bulk of the changes on the inspection period, which you find on page 6, again, is formatting and a better clarification on how we do what we already do, and a little bit of a better effort to have our clients be able to see what their options are in each instance. And of course, we also have the flow chart that is going to be available, commission website, I'm sure LR, that sort of thing. I think that was a great idea that we came up with. I can't take credit for that, but it helps visually to provide some a kind of a roadmap on what happens during that period. We did make some changes, of course, and I didn't really cover it in our little 15-minute video, but mineral rights, reserved and retained by the seller. We add a little bit of language there, of course, put more seller signature spots and seller signature spots in that section specifically, so that can be acknowledged right on the contract. And then some other formatting things, like I said, that just made sense. Again, the final version will probably be about Tuesday, no later than Wednesday of next week. Again, we did put out the YouTube video, and I think it's gotten a lot of response and a lot of views. On December 1st, and I think LR will be putting this email out again, we will have a live webinar at 2 o'clock to go over specifically, if you have any questions, any of your agents have questions you want to submit, we will cover that then. Patty McMurray will be there, I'll be there, and we can go into great detail and really get granular on anything that you might have that's specific after you get to see it, both the red line and the final version, December 1st. And I'll just give you a little teaser there too. Maybe if we have time, I'm almost finished my 6-year sentence on the commission. So, there's really not a whole lot they can do to me anymore. I know Cindy's on this call, but I'll maybe give up some little dirt on maybe some of the commissioners, if you like, staff, what have you, so that'll be a good teaser to tune in there. So again, unless you have any specific questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But like I said, December 1st, and surely by next week before Thanksgiving, we will have both those versions out, both in red line and final version.
I don't see anything in the chat. Anybody have anything you want to ask Rick?
Yes, I do, Rhonda.
Go ahead. You're live.
Okay, fire away, huh? Okay, Rick, good to see you. Listen, I was, when our purchase agreements became mandatory for the state, I was on the first contract review team, and I was just reflecting on how many changes have taken place over the years, and there's been quite a few. So it might not even totally resemble the beginning contract that we started with, but you emphasized mineral rights as one of the maybe bold changes. Is there something else in there that you feel denotes some recognition?
You mean from what we're proposing now to the last iteration, Bill, or when we started back the first one?
No, now,
No.
I'm not going back.
No. Like I said, the most salient change on this particular version would be the due diligence inspection period, where when a buyer, excuse me, makes a singular response to the seller, if there's any remaining time, that time is now gone. They can't keep coming back and taking a bite at the apple if they so choose. That's the biggest difference on this versus what we're presently using.
I got you. Okay.
The rest of it, again, is primarily formatting changes, and we're going to go into any detail that you might have specifically, really granular December 1st, but that's the biggest, most salient change on this contract, Bill.
Well, thank y'all for the work you've done on that.
Sure thing. Appreciate you.
All right. Well, as Rick said, Curtis, you got something?
Real quick, I just want to say, because I did go over that contract with the class the other day. I think that the LREC has been addressing modern technology, which is very, very important, like the Ring doorbell, cameras and stuff like that, to make sure that the agents know that these things are there, but also to let the sellers know before they start taking that stuff out, or to make sure that they put it on that this item will not stay, along with even something that's the television brackets. So I want to applaud LREC, because I think that's very important that we're moving forward as technology is changing too.
Curtis, I appreciate that. If I could say one more thing, Rhonda, too, regarding LREC and technology, it's taken us a while, probably 3 years. And it's something I've worked on while I've been there. I know all y'all think, Matt Ritchie and I just go there and drink all day and just have a good old time, but we really don't. And I told Bruce, I said, one of the things I want to try to accomplish before we leave is the days of driving to Baton Rouge with a form and a transfer form are going to be over. And they are now, folks. So again, the system seems to be working just fine. We've had about 140 or so that have gone through. We just got the report this morning at the commission meeting. And I think that's a welcome change for you guys and licensees in particular. So you don't have to wait and wait for somebody to stamp it. It was just such an archaic, ridiculous system. So yeah, Curtis, we're dragging them and kicking into the 21st century. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Let me see. I think I just saw another. One of my agents asked for clarification if internet service is considered a utility. And I'm going to assume that's on the disclosure. I can tell you the PSC definition is no.
Yeah.
No, I don't know about the disclosure. We can address that on December 1st, but like I said, PSC does not regulate it as a utility. They have some ability to regulate it because internet companies are often also cable companies and phone companies. So they have a little wiggle room or leverage there, but they do not regulate it as a utility.
Devlin had something, huh?
Yes. I just wanted to mention to all the brokers that their new electronic system has already taken place. And you typically will not find out that you've lost an agent till after they're already gone. So heads up on that one.
All right. So get your questions in about the contract. You can send them to me. You can send them to Kim. We'll collect them and get them to Rick and the folks over at the commission. So on December 1st, He has a list of questions, hopefully none, to answer as he goes through. Go back and find your November 12th email from LR. That does have a video where he goes through the contract. And as Curtis pointed out earlier, pay attention to those line numbers as he's going through some things. Mr. Bill, down south, we know y'all have a lot of in-house generator, full house generators that are attached now. That's something that will remain with the house. You can't just pack it up and take it off. So that's a new thing that's in the contract, is something that stays. I will tell y'all, you're going to get a survey email after this. Amy and I are already planning for an in-person broker summit the first quarter of next year. If there are topics or speakers that you're interested in having at that meeting, please email me or Amy so we can start getting onto that. We're gonna try and do something a little different this year with the designation boot camp and run a broker summit right on the tail end of that, so you can be in one place with your agents, possibly getting a designation, and then get some valuable information to take home and use in your office. It looks like somebody wants to know about the flow chart. That'll be out on the commission website, Rick.
Yes, yes.
Will it be out at the same time as the other documents?
Yes, yes, it will.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody else have any?
One more thing, Rhonda, since it is happy hour and Evelyn's on, just full disclosure here, guys. I'm getting a lot of nasty emails and text messages from Evelyn Wolford because we took fax number off the front of the contract, and she's really fond of her faxes. So, you know, she tried to keep it on. I said, no, we got to take that off. Sorry, Evelyn.
You have no idea the factual frustration this has caused personally.
Let me make sure we got everything out of the chat. That's pretty much it. Anybody else got anything to bring to the table? Norman, are you still on? Do you need to say anything? Connie Call says, what about exclusion number 15?
Yeah.
No, great job. Still there? Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, what's?
Exclusion number 15.
Exclusion 15.
Rick, that was the typo, I believe. I think there's still just 14 exclusions.
On the property disclosure?
Yes.
Yeah, Kim, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, number 15 was inadvertently left on from a previous version of the umpteenth 30,000 versions we had. It will now just be a line where you check it if you don't have an exemption to claim. The work group thought it would be best for everybody to check a box, and that was what 15 is intended for. And it will not have that language at the end anymore.
Sam, are you trying to ask a question?
Yeah. So I was going to ask about that. It really doesn't make sense. Someone already asked me, well, if I check box 15, do I just don't check anything else? There's no defects. Okay. And I'm glad that's not going to be included. It shouldn't be included. Okay. Because it would cause mass confusion on should I even have to fill out the rest of the form. If I fill out the rest of the form, it's got to be there's no defects to anything. I had already run off copies last week of the purchase agreement and the disclosure. Are those any good besides this one sheet? Should I recopy the final version? How many? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Rick,
The LREC has someone who typesets this stuff. It doesn't typically go to a printer, and they're still working on some gaffes. So wait for it to be permanently posted, I guess. Yes, what you've copied already is premature.
Yeah, Sam, what you see next week will be the final version, so you can go ahead from there.
Rick, there is a question about electronic deposits. Does that mean a brokerage can accept Venmo, PayPal, some of those type of electronic payments for deposits?
You mean, and have it be held by a listing broker or selling broker?
Yes, I believe
No,
that is the question.
No.
Yeah, Eric, Troy, either one of y'all want to weigh in on that?
Trying to unmute my phone. I don't know if Eric's still on. I can't see all the participants. This is Troy. I think that there is a sort of a reconciliation problem with not having monies deposited through traditional bank records or bank channels, I should say. The obviously electronic transfer, touchless transfer of funds and everything else is becoming more prevalent in kind of the retail economy. I'm not sure it sort of worked its way to the business economy in any large extent. There's some independent business I know who use those methods and whatnot. But I think the paper trail, the safekeeping of the escrow funds is going to be looked at with pretty high scrutiny. So given that there are other electronic methods to transfer funds, but through electronic ACH, wire transfers and whatnot, I think that it would be wise to sort of stay clear of Venmo, PayPal, you name it, Google Pay, whatever, Apple Pay, until there are more, I guess, national policies developed in that area. There's some experience that some guidance can be offered in it.
And we can address this on the webinar on December 1st in more depth.
Back to the commission answer, it's unequivocally no.
All right. I think the chat is now clear.
Rhonda,
Yes, sir.
great job. And I just want to say thanks to all the brokers out there that attended. Spread the word. Louisiana Realtors has a lot of great programs and services for you and your agents. We mentioned a few here today. We have a technology hotline as well that you can use 6 days a week. And we'll be sending you some more stuff in 2022. But great job on the first one. And we hope to see more brokers and all of you again, maybe next year at the live event, early 2022.
Yes, please complete your survey and send us those topics. And with that, I think we're signing off. So thank you guys. Cheers to everybody. Have a great rest of the week and a good Thanksgiving next week.